folks, welcome back to another one of our resources, not just surviving, but thriving at home for seniors. So really excited to have back with me again today, Cameo Rogers. Hi, Cameo. Thanks for joining us again.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Cameo is our life enrichment manager at the corporate office for Emmanuel, and she oversees a whole fleet of life enrichment team members. So I guess before we get into the show, just to refresh everybody, if you haven't had a chance to see any of our other resources, if you have, you can just buzz past this. But Cameo, what is life enrichment? What is it, and what do you really do?
Well, that's such a big question. It's a great question. So I'm a recreational therapist by trade. And the way that I see life enrichment is the term enrich means to add value to. And so the term life enrichment means that we're adding value to someone's life. And the way that we see this with our seniors that we are privileged to serve is that we are connecting them with things that make them feel purposeful, connected, fulfilled, joyful, and giving them opportunities to learn new skills, to develop new skills, to try something that they've never tried before, a new adventure, so to speak. So we are all about trying to connect the person with what really makes them light up.
Gotcha. I love that. I feel like all of us need life enrichment in our lives in general, right? Trying new things and connecting with things that make us light up. So let's actually start there before we jump into maybe some new ideas. We're all in this time period of hunkering down at home, and it's kind of a big thought to think about trying something new or stepping outside of our comfort zone, or even how we would do that without actually leaving our house. And then you layer into that maybe some of the stress or the fear or the anxiety that we've all had around the news and what's going on in the world at large. You know, there's a lot to unpack there, which we'll get to. But before we get to that, how do you actually dig into, maybe you've had a really meaningful life and you're at home, you're retired, whatever that is, you're in this new chapter of hunkering down at home. How do I find or connect into what I enjoy, like what's meaningful to me before I even start to try to figure out what I should be doing?
Well, that's a good question. And what I first would want to know is a little bit about, who that person is and what makes them tick. Some people are really drawn to the arts. Some people find joy in either observing the arts or creating art. Some people enjoy literature and reading a really great book and diving into what that means. Some people find joy in history and looking at their family tree and genealogy and research into their own history and where they came from. Some people find joy in music and dance and performance art and theater. And so sometimes that's observing, sometimes it's creating, sometimes it's a combination of both. Some people love competition. They thrive on challenge. And so for some of those individuals, board games, card games, or competing against one another with trivia or something similar can really elevate the experience. Some people they really get joy out of the time that they spend with others. And for those individuals right now, it's a very challenging time for those extroverts who are used to being able to go be where they want to be with people all the time and get energy out of that. For those individuals, it's a little different. Yeah, it's a little challenging for us extroverts right now. Yeah. And we have to look at connection a little differently.
I can give myself permission to try something new, but be informed by the things that I've liked to have done in the past. So who knows what those things are. So I kind of start to think about that. And I'm gonna suggest, because I'm a list maker, maybe you don't want to make a list, maybe you just want to run through it in your mind, but make a list of the things that you've liked, that you've enjoyed doing previously, and cross out the stuff that was maybe just too much work and tedious and not something that you find joyful, and circle the things that might be joyful, and then use this time period as a time to really dig into some of those things that maybe you didn't think about doing before. So Cameo, let's use that to transition into, I'm home, I'm hunkering down, or I'm doing my best to hunker down. I enjoy connection. And if you guys didn't catch it, make sure you hop over to the virtual connection episode that we have, because those resources are fantastic. I think you can find a lot of great value and maybe even learn how to do what we're doing here, which is video conferencing. That's a great new skill set to pick up no matter what your age is, because it certainly can keep you connected thousands of miles away from each other. And this is, great technology that we have today that we didn't have 15 years ago when I moved far, far away from my parents and missed them the very first time more than 20 years ago. But tell us, what are some of the things we could be thinking about to challenge ourselves to stay engaged? What's available to me that I maybe didn't think about before now, and now could be really helpful for me?
So I'm going to kind of tie into first what you said on making the list, and then kind of get some ideas for some sprinkles of what you can do if you're by yourself, or if you have some other people with you in your hunker down spot. But one fun thing, in addition to making a list, is to actually write out what those things are. So whether it's organizing a drawer, if that's something that you really enjoy, or your pantry, or doing a puzzle, or doing a brain teaser, or trying to do watercolors, or drawing a picture of something in nature, going in your yard nearby and pulling weeds, whatever it is, writing those things down on slips of paper, putting them in a little mason jar, and drawing a couple out a day. And making that itself a fun activity, and helping you to set leisure goals each day. It's hard for a lot of us to think of leisure as part of our schedule. We're beings that are used to having very structured time. We work, we get home, we have these activities, and then we go to bed, we do it all over again. And so when that structure has been disrupted, we have to find new ways to create a new structure. So yeah. I first wanted to start with that. But another thing, if you have somebody with you, if you have a spouse or you have a roommate or partner that's with you, there's a lot of little activities that you don't have to go out for. You can cook or bake together, try a different recipe that you haven't tried that you kind of wanted to try. You can do what a lot of us are doing right now, which is you look and see what you have in the pantry and you come up with a recipe from what you have.
Yes.
You can get real creative. Everything is ratatouille right now.
I love that, right? How to cook with whatever leftovers in your pantry. I love that. It's fantastic. 3 ingredients. What can we make tonight?
It's your own little Top Chef competition, or what is it? The Top Chef competition. So you can organize your family photos and label them. You can create homemade cards and get them ready for all of your family's birthdays in the next few months. You can be thinking, I know it's really, 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 really early out, but thinking about, what are some homemade gifts that you can make for people while you're home? I know one of my most cherished things that I have are recipes that were written out in handwriting of my grandmother and my great-grandmother. And so the handwriting and adding a little detail to things, when they made that recipe and how it was enjoyed, or how they got that information, make that recipe, those kind of handmade gifts are just priceless. So those are things that people can do. You can write down conversation starter questions. This is something I've done with my kids and my husband. And you just write down simple things like, if you could have any superhero power, what would it be and why? Or what's one place that you want to make sure that you get to see someday? Or what's your favorite place that we've ever been as a family, and why? So you write down little conversation starters. You pick one out at each meal.
I love that.
Very simple things. You can, plant. You can start working out in your garden right now. If you have access to cable or other kind of streaming services that are out there, like Netflix or Hulu or any of those streaming videos, you can watch a nature series together. Or if you have access to YouTube, you can watch a TED Talk. And TED Talks are short videos done by lecturers experts really on a variety of topics. And it's a great lifelong learning exercise. And then you can talk about it with whoever is home with you.
So I got to stop you right here because I love this idea. A couple different things that I don't want us to lose track of. So the idea of the list, which is a great first start, but actually writing them down, just things to do down on pieces of paper and then pulling them out. So you have a little bit of element of surprise every day. I love that. And the second thing that really strikes me, this is interesting. So we're in an unprecedented moment, really in the history of humankind. I mean, we're all going through some really interesting, challenging, there's a lot going on right now in the world, but we are also all hopefully hunkering down as much as possible at home, and hunkering down gives us the ability to have a little time that maybe we didn't have before. So focusing in on some of those ideas of hand making something, or writing a recipe, or writing letter, like a handwritten letter. I love that. And, I would carry that even further. If you have a group of friends that you haven't connected with, maybe girlfriends or guy friends, or, whatever friends that you haven't had the opportunity to connect with, or maybe your family's been really busy, this would be a great time to organize a family or a friend, whatever, recipe connection, or handwritten note connection, or a note of gratitude connection, and then assemble them all together, because I think that's a really meaningful idea. And a lot of times life is just too busy to do some of those things. This is the perfect moment for that. I love that, Cameo.
Well, it's something that, we're working on right now, but it's also something I was sent a resource by one of our Pathways professionals on creating your own COVID-19 time capsule. And so something I'm looking at right now to modify for our community. But there's definitely some value in, this is unprecedented. Nobody's been through anything like this in a very long time. And so, to be able to capture some of the things that we're doing to cope, and how we're getting through it, and how the resilience that's being shown, future generations will be impacted positively from what we capture today.
Oh, I love that. So the ideas are endless, really. I loved the lifelong learning with TED Talks, which if you have access to the internet, that's an easy thing to find. We'll make sure we link to that here in the resource section, so you can grab that or just click through and see some of those. YouTube, there's lots and lots of interesting videos and how-tos on YouTube if you want to pick up a new hobby of any sort. I know Michael's is actually mail ordering things. So if you want to get into arts and crafts, now is a great time for that. Michaels.com. You can order it and ship it into your house, so you don't even have to leave the house, which is a nice thing. So there's literally, the possibilities are endless, I think, for somebody who's just trying to be a little resourceful and just taking a small step outside of your comfort zone. It's not like we have to completely rework, what we're used to, but maybe use this time to try just a tiny step forward in trying something new. So Cameo, if you would wrap it up in a nutshell for us, like what would be your top 3 bits of wisdom that we could take away and start something new, make it meaningful, as we're trying to figure out like how we get through hunkering down?
Well, I think, to kind of summarize, to be able to find out what gives you enjoyment, what gives you peace, and what gives you connection. So those are three things that I would say from a life enrichment end. What gives you those 3 things, and writing down things that fall into those categories and drawing them out and making sure that you get a little bit of that each day, and finding and scheduling time each day to connect some way with somebody else. It's interesting. I was looking at some research on loneliness and how seniors who live on their own are significantly impacted. But over in the UK, there was a study that was done that showed that some people are only talked to by another human being once a week. And that is something that to me is just heartbreaking, that you wouldn't hear a voice, or you wouldn't get a letter, or so scheduling that and making that a priority, to either write a letter to somebody, to send an email to somebody if you have email, to make a phone call, or to drop off something. If you're still able to walk in your neighborhood nearby, to drop off a little note for your neighbors and to say, I'm thinking of you, hope you're thinking of me, let's stay together while we're separate. So, I think anything that makes you feel like you're a bigger part of something.
I love that. So this is funny. Human beings are definitely meant to connect. And in the cultures that live the longest around the world, there's been some really interesting studies and some research that digs into that, and the fact that the cultures that typically do live the longest are the areas of the world that have the greatest amounts of longevity, with meaningful longevity. So people that are really actively still doing well health-wise and cognitively. I think now more than anything, it's a great time to write out a letter. I think handwriting is something that people really find valuable right now in these moments, because it feels just a little bit more meaningful, like we're connecting better. But emails are just as good, sending sentiments that way too, connecting that way. But I love that tip that you gave us, that word of advice to make sure that we're meaningfully and also intentionally reaching out to stay connected, and not just waiting for somebody to stay connected to us. Because right now is the moment maybe to re-engage with the friend that we haven't talked to in a long time, or the brother that's been too busy in his world because he's been working, or the granddaughter that's been away at college but now is not necessarily going to college right now, or whatever that is. It's a great time to reconnect. I love that. You gave us some really great resources, and there's a bunch out there. And I think we'll have to have you come back on for another one of these shows. I'd love to do actually 2 more really great shows. And so I'm going to drop that as a hint. Folks, you'll have to check back in the coming weeks and see them. But one would be, people that have dementia or starting to have some memory issues. How do we stay engaged with those people, especially right now during this time of hunkering down? We need to stay meaningfully connected with those folks both ways, right? And then the second tip, I know that you mentioned on one of our other resource videos, but the well-being side of things, the mindfulness side of things, which is an important piece of what we do at Emmanuel. We talk about thriving at Emmanuel in general. We have 9 elements, which we'll have to go through those at some point as well to share with you what and the ways in which we define healthy aging, I guess, healthy living, really, not just aging, just for anybody. So Cameo, thank you for joining us again. We'll have you back on again, like I mentioned, on another one of these little episodes. And in the meantime, if you want to connect with Cameo or any of the other amazing life enrichment experts we have at Emmanuel, be sure to just drop us a line by clicking on the Contact Us button, which you're going to see the link below here in the resource section as well. Cameo, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.